Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Bold TV. Beautiful, outstanding ladies with disabilities television. It's been a minute, but it's good to be back. Welcome. Happy new month. This is the month of March. So before I go ahead and introduce anything, what I'm saying for you is that in this month of March, you will move forward, that you will achieve your goals, that you will reach out for the unreachable, and that you will also be able to conquer and overcome, and you will have your dreams come. Welcome to the beautiful month of March and another exciting episode of Gold TV. Ladies, you know how we do it. Tell us your name, tell us where you come from, or where you're based, what you do, and type of disability. So I'm going to kick this off with Osaki. Please go ahead. Introduce yourself.
Good morning, all light on the audience, and good morning, ladies. I'm Osaki Teresa Georgie Taria. I reside in Port Harcourt, River State, One. I'm a polio warrior, a disability rights advocate, and a farmer. I'm so glad to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, good morning, ladies. My name is Carol Akoluman. I reside in Port Harcourt, reside in Obiako. I'm also an advocate for disability.
I'll go ahead and introduce myself. My name is Freki Andrew. I'm based in Port Harcourt in River State. I use a wheelchair from spinal cord injury. I'm a public health professional and Your Faker Foundation, among other things. And I am a member of Bold Hearts Initiative. And your host for this episode of Bold TV.
It's good to be back indeed. Welcome to another episode. My name is Afyong Etum. I'm a medical lab scientist based in New York. And I use a wheelchair from spinal cord injury. I'm also a member of Bold Hearts Initiative. Thank you.
Awesome. So we are going to be having a conversation focused today on what we have tagged accessibility for persons with disabilities benefits everyone. Accessibility for persons with disabilities benefits everyone. When you get the word accessibility, it is an English word. For persons with disabilities, it's not just the talk, but the practice of making our environments, services, and information usable for persons with disabilities, accommodating their variety of needs. And when we talk about accessibility for persons with disabilities, we're speaking about accessibility across the accessibility continuum. That is accessibility from when approaching a place, entering a place, using a space, and exiting that space. So that is what accessibility for persons with disabilities. Now, before I go ahead and ask ladies with me today why accessibility is so important for persons with disabilities, I'd like you to listen to this message that we will like that.
Ready, go!
All right, welcome back. We hope the few flashes of messages that we sent to you are sinking in, and that's going to be, some of the basis of the conversation that we're going to be having in the next few minutes. So, the first person I'm going to ask, why is accessibility important for persons with disabilities?
Thank you. Accessibility is because not only does it, give them a foot in the room, it also creates, gives them opportunities. It gives them the opportunity to showcase their potential. It also, enhances or fosters independence. It fosters independence, strengthen and give them a sense of belonging. It's a way to ensure that reintegration into society is possible and be seamless. So independence, their potentials, and contributes them to, move on. It helps them in reintegration into society so that they can contribute and be productive members of society.
Thank you, Afyong. We're able to pick a few things. Afyong, your network is free today. So when we're talking about why it's important for persons with disabilities, from what she said it allows for independence. See, independence and accessibility are just brother and sister, because it allows for a person with disability to be able to do a lot on their own. She talked about the importance of how it's important for integration and inclusion of persons with disability in work life, in social life, and it improves their participation. All right, Osaki, why is it important for persons with disabilities? Why is accessibility so important for us?
Okay, thank you very much, Afio. So I will say why accessibility is important to us. Okay. One, I would say it's important because it creates the equal participation, full participation without any excuse. I can be effective and efficient, and also it ensures it gives an opportunity where I can contribute to society and make an impact. And imagine a world of where we have 30 million persons with disabilities, and the world is 200 and Nigerians are 200 million. So imagine if 30 million is not functioning, means there's a lapse. So it's also that means it creates an opportunity whereby we can contribute and make a generous impact. And also, accessibility also help other persons without disability to know how effective we are, not seeing us like -1 or negative, but now have a positive highlight that this person too can also be a contributor in the society. Thank you.
So Saki just highlighted some of the things I've done said, and honestly, at the end of the day, equal participation on equal basis as everyone else is one of the great desire for persons with disabilities, and we know accessibility is one way of getting to this. And before I go to the next question, I'll just like to add one key thing or that sheds light on the importance of accessibility for persons with disabilities, the fact that it reduces discrimination for us. It reduces the issue of discrimination, but sometimes it eliminates it, where a person is able to access on an equal basis with others. See that we dismantle some of the hiccups that come with causing of discrimination, especially for persons with disabilities. So, Auntie Carol, if you're still there, I'd like to ask you this question about what's
I'm still there. Yeah, I'm here with you.
You can hear me well. I just want to ask you if you can mention one barrier to accessibility that persons with disabilities face. One barrier to accessibility.
Okay. I would say one of the barriers is the environment. Able to access the environment. It's not easy to access the environment. People with disabilities. Self-permission, the public place. Like if somebody on the wheelchair wants to enter a public place where there's no ramp, it's a great challenge.
So she talked about the physical barrier that persons with disabilities face when it comes to accessibility, and that's talking about the built environment. So talking about structures, housing, that physical barrier that persons with disabilities face. It is a barrier to accessibility for persons with disabilities. So Saki, can you talk about another barrier to accessibility for people?
Okay, thank you very much. Another barrier I will talk about is economic barriers. Economic barrier is something that it's so tightened when it comes to assistive devices. They are so expensive. Some of us might not be able to afford those things we use so that we can be more efficient. And also when it comes to the force of employability, most times it's difficult because of the public might just judge us because of disability and won't want to check our potentials. So that's also a barrier. Thanks.
I want to talk about the foundational barrier, which is the attitudinal barrier, where the stereotypes that people have, like you just mentioned, because of those stereotypes, superstitious beliefs, rooted in religion or some other cultural beliefs, hinders people from being active when it comes to operations. You find individuals not sure there is accessibility because they believe that persons with disabilities should be segregated, should be kept aside so that they do not infect or contaminate the rest of society based on these beliefs. And then another thing is, for our hearing impaired sisters and brothers, we have communication barrier, where you find many news stations. It's only now you find that some news stations are now becoming more inclusive. before now, they never, thought of having sign language interpreters. Even in some like major government institutions like hospitals, you find that a person with hearing impairment goes there and they can't communicate. Somebody with a sensory impairment goes there and there's no one trained to be able to communicate with them, and so they are denied access to the kind of healthcare or service that they need, just because they have not been taken into account when these the structures are being put in place. So these are just some of the things that can hinder persons with disabilities and exclude them from necessary or places where they need to access.
All right, thank you very much, Afion. So Afion threw more light on the issue of attitudinal barrier, and then she went ahead to speak to one key aspect, which is communication barrier. And one of the beautiful things, especially when it comes to communication, and why we are having on issues around accessibility, is the fact that we have a lot of smart devices now that can do citations, that can do the subtitles. Like now, you can watch us because you can easily go and activate those captions on your YouTube or your Facebook. And these are some of the things that we're kind of pushing for when it comes to accessibility. And imagine, I just want you to, you that is listening to us or out there, imagine that you are in this and all they are speaking is, for instance, let's say you are in a Spanish-speaking country and you cannot understand Spanish. You will just be lost. They will sell you. So that's what we're talking about. It's a barrier, something that will be very easy for you. All of a sudden, you cannot have access to it simply because there is a communication barrier or language barrier. So that is a key barrier that persons with disabilities face, especially those with sensory impairment, hearing impairment, when it comes to accessibility. As we wind this down, I would like to mention that there is one barrier. There are two barriers. I'd like to just mention before I go to the next question, and that is institutional barriers. Institutional barriers are where systems and policies are now giving barrier to persons with disability. They are not shrouded in individual thinking, no, but somebody just puts up a policy that in itself is, denial of access. And sometimes it's done because of lack of information. That's why we always tell people that when you want to come up with policies or you want to come up with a code of conduct, ensure that your working group that forms that policy is an all-inclusive group, so that all aspects of humanity is represented and you can come up with a holistic and a balanced policy. Then the other barrier I want to just mention is personal barrier. And it's important that I say this because this one is the barrier from within, and this is the barrier from a person with disability themselves. I always tell people that doors can be open, but who will access a doorway or access the room that the door opens into or leads into is who walks through the door. Now, the door can be wide open, but if you do not walk through, slide through, run through, anyone you want to do through, then you will not have access to what is behind the door. So personal barriers come from things like self-stigmatization or self-doubt, lack of self-esteem, lack of self-worth. Even when the access is there, the person with disability does not feel confident enough to be able to take on the opportunity. So looking at all those barriers and speaking to the issue of accessibility, remember our topic is accessibility for persons with disability benefits everyone. We had Tommy Singh come into the chats. So Tommy Singh, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Okay, thank you very much, Frankie. Good morning, everyone. My name is Tommy Singh Adeyefa. I'm a journalist, a gender and disability rights advocate, the executive director of Popular Abilities Foundation for Women and Girls with Disabilities. I'm based in Abeokuta, the capital of Ogun State, and it feels really good to be here. Thank you.
I want to ask this question, and it has to do with some key concepts of accessibility, just to drive home the point. When it comes to our discussion of accessibility, there are some key concepts. And the first key concept I would like us to talk about is the concept of universal design.
Universal design are worldwide, generally acceptable movements in designing a space to ensure that everyone is able to move freely and carry out activities within that space. Let me just put it that in a layman's term. And so there is a worldwide, or let me say universal, acceptable kind of way to create a space to design. Usually when you are building a structure, you come up with plans, the architect, the surveyor, everybody comes up with architectural designs, layout of how the building or the outfit should be constructed. Now, when you now consider universal design, it means that there are certain measurements, certain either in length, in breadth, in width, in height, that is acceptable to ensure that every person with disability is able to freely access such a structure. For instance, let me give you an example. When you want to go into an entrance of a place that is universally designed, it means that if I am a wheelchair user, my wheelchair should be able to turn 360 freely at such an entrance. So it means I should be able to make a U-turn. I should be able to, walk in freely to ensure that as a wheelchair user, I am not hindered and I am not, excluded from whatever is going on in that building because, of course, I cannot access it. That's basically what design means. Thank you.
All right, Tomisin, thank you so much for sharing, on universal design. So, just to shed more light and bring it down a bit to some of our listeners. So, think about the design of the building, the design of gadgets, or the design of a program or an intervention. When we are speaking to universal design, what we are saying is design that product, that service, that program with everyone in mind. That's what universal design speaks to. So you take your time to ensure that that design can be used by everyone who picks up that device, whether the person is a person with disability or not. That is the trick of universal design. So think about who is excluded from my product or service because no person cannot use it. So for instance, I like to use the phone a lot because this is the digital age. When you pick up a phone, there are things called accessibility features by default on the phone that you, if you need, can activate to use. A simple example is magnifying the words on your phone. So somebody can be looking at the phone and the person is using small print. Another person is like, I cannot see this thing. You can now go easily to settings and you increase the font size of your words on your phone, on your laptop. That's an accessibility feature. And it didn't even come because of persons with disability. It's just a feature in the phone that makes your product more accessible. An example of another one of still using digital phone, for instance. These days, people like talkback on their phone. And when you hear talkback, most times you think of persons with visual impairment. But some people just put on that feature so that if their phone is not near them, their phone will be talking to them and telling them who is calling, what is happening. These are universal design. Okay, talk about the concept of reasonable accommodation. Go ahead.
When we say reasonable accommodation, I'm going to come at it from the place of experience. If you're a person with disability, you know how frustrating it can be when looking for rental accommodation. Because it's like the landlords, they have a secret meeting and they have decided that they are going to make sure their houses are not accessible. There are 10,000 steps. If you're a person with mobility impairment, there are 10,000 steps leading to the entrance. And then a few tens of steps inside the house alone. And then let's not even go to the bathroom. As in, people with disabilities, we don't pee and poo, so you shouldn't even enter the bathroom. So it's a reasonable accommodation means that any accommodation that a person with disability, regardless of their disability, the accommodation should be structured in a way that minimizes to a large extent the barriers, the structural and physical barriers they will face, so that they can easily access anywhere within and outside that accommodation. It's not when you manage to get into the house, you can't go out again because why? Somehow there's some barrier that keeps you. You have to wait until somebody comes to let you out. You're not a dog. So reasonable accommodation means anybody, regardless of their type of disability, should be able to navigate within and outside, enter and go out of any accommodation that is provided. And it should have fixtures like your light switch, your wall sockets, all those things should be accessible. Bathrooms, toilets should be designed in such a way that regardless of a person's disability, they are able to access these key facilities without stress. So that is reasonable accommodation. So from the entire physical structure to the fixtures within the house, it should be such that anybody with or without a disability But for those with disabilities, regardless of their type of disability, they should be able to navigate as independently as possible with minimal aid.
Awesome. So Afiam has used her experience as well with housing to talk about the issue of accessibility and need for reasonable accommodation. So somebody's like, oh, what's the difference between universal principle or universal design and reasonable accommodation? Let me help you. When you talk about the universal design, think about the design of a service, a product, a house from inception. So like Tomisin said, from when the Kukuma even designing it, that's on paper, back from your mind. When you start thinking assets. Now, reasonable accommodation now comes into play when, let's assume, we're on our way. And there is already, for instance, a physical structure. And a person with disability, you now know a person with disabilities must access that thing. You have the onus to ensure that there is some level of reasonable accommodation. In other words, things that are introduced to that existing structure, existing business, existing project to reduce the barriers of accessibility that persons with disabilities will have. I hope that helps. So you don't need to break the bank. The accommodation can be reasonable. And it's little things that can just make the difference between equal access and unequal access. So let's consider reasonable accommodation like that. Okay, Osaki, let's talk about usability.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, when it comes to availability, now I would say you have us in mind. You have persons with disability. You said it's available. Now I want to use it and I cannot. I'll give you an instance. I remember when I and Frank, we went somewhere. I asked, there's an eatery, a big eatery. Yes, they have lifts. We have elected. Go to the place, lift not. What happened? They say someone holds the key. The key is someone. We stood there for I don't know how long we stayed there. They had to run scatter just to get key for lift. Now you say after all you have lifts. You're inclusive. There's another one again. Places that will have car parking space. Yes, can someone park? You say yes. You drew that symbol, right? But when I get here, I can't even park because another car is already parking, and that person doesn't have a disability. So now you have us in mind, but you're not intentionally about having person with disability in your space. When you say availability, it means that you leave that place open, whether we come there or not. That place should just be there. So in case any of us wants to visit, it will be easy. You create an event, there'll be an event, and you say yes, you have sign language interpreter. At the end of the day, because you didn't enforce on the person that is coming, you just put one phone call. You didn't put it in place whereby you make sure that that person should be there before the persons that need the sign language interpreter. So all of that should be, whatever you're doing, let there be that opportunity for whoever that needs that inclusion. Whenever the person should be able to access, should be able to use that particular, it should be available for whoever that needs it. Thank you.
Thank you. The concept of availability, it sounds very minor, but it can be very major. And like Osaki said, we've experienced it so many times. And the interesting thing is that when you get to those places, they are so excited that it's like, yes, we have done it. You said it, we have done it. And then you're like, okay, now, is it available? And let's carry it. And you're like, what? This has happened with restrooms, with all sorts of features. So they actually have it, but it's not available to use. And just to jump on that, before we now ask the final question, usability. And they are different. They're like brothers and sisters. Because an accessibility feature can be available without time and no use it. See, the concept of usability and availability are so crucial when it comes to accessibility for persons with disabilities, because if something is not useful to or then what is. I remember an experience and I like sharing it. I went to an industry and they were so excited. Apparently their ramp was new. They were so excited about the ramp. Yeah, I was using my manual chair, so I was like, please, somebody should just bend me, let me go, because I don't trust people's ramps like that. If your man was so, he said, don't give it to me, so you don't know, we just give this one. I think, let's go and use your available ramp. Okay? Something happened. For some reason, the ramp slope, everything was perfect. But I don't know whether the architect was high, because the ramp ended, there was no landing. Landing is when you climb the place and then you now set, and you're able to turn. I don't know whether the person thought we were James Bond and we just fly inside. I was flummoxed by what was happening, no landing. And that's how we got to the top. And then all of us come there because no way to now rest at dawn. So the last question is actually our topic, and it says, how does accessibility for persons with disability benefit everyone?
Okay, thank you very much. Accessibility for persons with disabilities benefits everyone in so many ways, and I'll pick one of it. Now, when you provide an accessible space or place or product for persons with disabilities, yeah, maybe the direct or the primary beneficiaries are persons with disabilities. But oftentimes you find out that persons who are not primarily persons with disabilities will also get to benefit. For instance, the talkback you made an example of, voice assistants, now those were primarily targeted at persons with disabilities. But you will see that also helps people who do not have any kind of disability to also engage the mobile device. Take, for instance, when you're and is selling on it, everybody is giving it like it's free to walk on. You find out that the pregnant woman, the elderly man or woman is also able to walk unhindered in those kind of spaces. Even with persons with disabilities also move freely. So, for instance, when you have a building, maybe a house, a residential house, and you have accessible places in that building. A lot of older people now, they build 2-3 stories. They build 2-3 stories, and when they are 70, when they are 80, they find it difficult to go up the stairs, and then they relocate their bedroom to the down floor because it is inaccessible. So if they had constructed those structures, bearing in mind accessibility, in their time of old, or when they develop, any kind of ailment or any accident happens, it benefits them also. It makes life more easier for them. Let me stop there.
This particular question reminds me of an experience I had one time. I went to the clinic, and I don't know how they built the entrance, one of the places to do the lab test. And the steps is so high. I told the man, what's this now? How much is this a clinic? And he said, okay, madam, sorry, don't be angry. So the next day I went there, they now put blocks. As another step that will be a little bit easier for someone that using maybe crutches, but someone with wheelchair will not be able to. But at the end of the day, everybody was enjoying that step to enter the place. Now they forgot that there was no step before they were just climbing. But now there was a step. People just forgot that nobody wants to even climb again. Everyone was just using that step before you now enter the place. I said, okay, so it's nice for all of us, not just me alone. And everybody was laughing. So at the end of the day, when this kind of stuff happens for persons with disability, everybody enjoys because number one is comfortable. Do you understand? And I wonder why people just assume that easy life is not good. Because some things we do, I just knew that this is stress. But someone with disability comes there, they now say, okay, they now change the pattern. Because of that person, everybody use that follow pattern. Especially if I'm going to somewhere and I want to enter somewhere, whoever is following me at that moment is like a grace, because they will attend to the person. There will be no stress. So just attend to the person. So why not make it easier for everybody to attend to one after the other? So that step only give me an insight of how life could be easy and comfortable for everyone, not just person with disability.
Thank you very much. As Osaki was sharing, one example that flew in my mind. So in my church, there was some rebuilding or reconstruction, and being the disability advocate I was on everybody's neck on the issue of accessibility. So what was happening was that the stage was now made higher. I say I'm a chorus that I must climb with everybody. I will not be sitting downstairs, and people will not be sitting upstairs. So the compromise was that as they do step, they will do ramp from here and the back up the altar and from wherever. And that was done. Now, the interesting thing is that the ramp was done so that I can wheel up easily. Now, I have to literally wait for everyone to use the ramp and climb. Before I climb, they have abandoned the steps. Because the steps are high, they've left them behind. So I'm like, okay, so I'll now wait. Everybody will climb. Then I'll now wait and say, look at this before. So it's just a simple example, true. But really benefit ease of access. True, I've seen it happen many times where there's a step and there's a ramp and everybody just debates to the ramp and shuffles off. So that's just a simple example. I feel go ahead.
If it's that one, it's a regular occurrence at work. The ramp that was made that I requested for that was made, everybody follows that way. Now they know that they have patients that can come and cannot access steps, can't even lift their legs up. They know elderly people can now use it. Even in church, in fact, in church, it's me and children that struggle because that's their takeoff point. Okay, so back to the overall benefits for everyone. It eases the burden of care, because if you're a caregiver of a person with disability, you know how stressful it can be. It's not always easy, on the clock here. But if there are, devices, aids that can help that person be more independent, it can also ease the burden on the caregiver so that they are not, the mental toll it takes on them, the emotional toll is also reduced. And then another thing is it also eases the economic burden, because if a person with disability is able to access, public spaces, is able to go out and look for employment, there's no discrimination, they're able to go out and apply themselves, go out and learn new skills to be able to, they are able to have earning power. It reduces the burden of them depending fully on whoever is responsible for their care. So that, it's not every time you need this one, you go, you need this one. At some point, it can be overwhelming. So it also reduces that economic burden on the caregiver. The person with disability becomes more independent, and it also helps them. They are less, needy, and the person without the caregiver or the society as a whole benefits, because there are so many talented persons with disability, and these potentials lay untapped. Why? Because they don't have access to where they are needed. And so I'm like, they come and consult you for this, they come and consult you for that. But they were telling me no vacancy, you will go there, they say they don't know what to do with you, all manner of excuses. But when you now finally fight and get your way in there, they now realize that, you were what we needed all along. So without accessibility, how do you know what this person is going to bring? This might actually be the person you build a problem or create a solution for a particular need. So these are some of the things that, it goes beyond just the person with disability. Everybody benefits.
Yes, everyone does benefit. Accessibility is an essential part of life. All aspects of life, accessibility. And accessibility is not just a catchphrase that is identified for persons with disability. If you are denied access to something that you really want, I don't know how you feel about it. So imagine a person who is perpetually denied access, sometimes not intentionally, but just because of lack of consideration of little things that can make a change. Accessibility for persons with disability indeed does benefit everyone. It allows everyone to fully participate in society. It allows everyone to bring the value that they have into society. Not to shock you, accessibility for everyone ensures that you have a wider, customer base if you're a business person. So think accessibility, think everyone. This has been our episode on Go TV for this week. We talked about accessibility for persons with disability benefits everyone. We talked about how it's important for persons with disability. We went ahead to discuss some key concepts around it just to give us an understanding. And then we went to dig down to say how accessibility for persons with disability really does benefit everyone, whether you are a person with disability or not. It's something that I say, true love is accessibility. True love is accessibility. So give us access. So, want to see this episode and other episodes to just run to our YouTube channel on www.com/OTV_. You can run to our Facebook page and check it out at www.facebook.com/network. And if you want to be a guest on this episode, either as an expert on the topic or a woman with disability who wants a voice in hand, you can reach out to any of the focus and we will tell you how. You can also send us an email on boldheartnetwork.com. We will write back to you. So, to see you next time, same place. Don't find trouble. Give everyone access. Bye.
This is Bold TV.